Hello, friend. Thanks for pressing play on this episode of the Brassy Broadcast. If this is your first time here, let me introduce myself. I'm Jen Eads. I'm a musician, a student of the creative universe, and a curious girl full of questions. I'm also the head broad in charge at the Brassy Broadcasting Company. I partner with the doers and the makers of this world to put them in the ears, heads, and hearts of new audiences with podcasts and other audio goodness. Drop me a line at Jen, Jen, at brassybroad.com if you'd like to set up a quick 15-minute call to see if I might be able to help you grow and better serve your audience. Instagram is my jam. I'm having so much fun over there with the filters and the stories and sharing some behind-the-scenes stuff into my music and podcasting world. You can find me there, and we can hang out at Brassy Broad Jen. I'm sure this comes as no surprise, but I love listening to podcasts. And this week, I had the opportunity to listen to a couple of episodes of the new podcast, Ear Hustle. Man, it sucks you right in. This podcast is about life in prison, and it's actually produced in San Quentin Prison. Check out the Misguided Loyalty episode. You got a little taste of things to come with the Brassy Roadcast in the last episode, and I've decided to keep it right here in this same feed as the Brassy Broadcast so you don't have to go subscribe to another podcast. We're keeping it all conveniently located in one place. All I ask is that you are subscribed on iTunes, Google Play Music, or your favorite podcast listening app, because I don't want you to miss an episode. We've got an upcoming trip to Michigan, to the South Haven area. We're going to do a little getaway and stay in a motor lodge built in 1946 that we found on Airbnb. It looks super cute, so tune in to see how that goes. And you can come along for the adventure as it happens on Instagram. As both a musician and a podcaster, I've taken part in many discussions around monetization and crowdfunding for both music and podcasts. Both are creative endeavors that require significant amounts of time, energy, and money. The million-dollar question is, how can we create a sustainable living producing our work? Patreon is a platform that connects creatives like musicians and podcasters with fans or patrons that want to give them money to support their work. It's pretty groovy. You can make recurring monthly contributions or contribute based on new projects. It's an exceptional platform when it comes to engaging fans, building relationships with them, and creating unique experiences around your work. It's an opportunity for so much more than just buy my record or come to my show. I'm so excited to introduce you to Shawnee Kilgore in this episode. She is an Austin, Texas-based singer-songwriter living a crowdfunding fairy tale. In 2014, Shawnee launched a Kickstarter campaign to fund her fourth solo album, A Long and Precious Road. In her video message to potential backers, a tribute to Bob Dylan's Subterranean Homesick Blues, she held up a card that said, "I'm learning to ask for help." This vulnerable and honest phrase struck a chord for one particular music fan perusing Kickstarter projects on his rare time off, Joss Whedon. Whedon, one of Hollywood's most prominent directors, you might have seen some of his work, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Firefly, and The Avengers, just to name a few. He loved Shawnee's music and her voice and backed the project, taking the first step towards what would become the unlikeliest of creative partnerships. I was total smitten kitten after watching Shawnee's Patreon video. You will be too. Click the link in the show notes to watch it. In this conversation, we talk about how she uses Patreon, the challenges of sharing a new song every week, why she loves house concerts, and what it was like working with Joss Whedon. My takeaways from this episode are the following. Number 1, I have a hard time saying Joss Whedon. I had to practice it. a lot. And just do the thing. Don't overthink it. Don't try to make it perfect. I know this, but it's always good to be reminded again. And I actually put it to work this week. My friend and recent podcast guest, Lisa Mitchell, threw down a challenge on Monday for me to write a song about the online digital dating experience and have it done by Friday, which is today when I'm recording this. Now, I've been with my wife for almost 17 years, so I have absolutely no experience in this realm. Lisa gave me some guidance based on her experience, and I sat down with my guitar and notebook. I finished it yesterday. It's called Swipe Right Blues. I didn't judge it. I didn't overthink it. I just did the thing and flexed that creative writing muscle. It felt so good. And I'm sure that you are going to be just as inspired. Enjoy my conversation with Shani Kilgore. Shani, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jen.
So I'm curious right off the bat, tell me what it's like being a musician living in Austin, Texas.
You know, it's pretty wonderful. It certainly has its challenges for sure. And I think kind of the first few years I was here, I was a little more focused on those challenges rather than the amazing parts about it. I mean, I'm not sure there's another city in the country or maybe the world where musicians get health care through HAM, which is really incredible. And there are a lot of opportunities like that, and a lot of like Black Fret and the Austin Musician Foundation. Just a lot of people are here to support and make sure that we can do what we do the best that we can do it. And and my other favorite thing about being here is just the community of musicians is really incredible. People go out and work, they go out and tour, and then they just come home and relax here and, sit around living rooms and play music, and people genuinely want to support each other and get out to see all of their friends play. And so it's incredibly supportive that way. So those are kind of my favorite things about here and being a musician here.
Kind of sounds like musician heaven on earth.
It is a little bit, yeah.
How did you go about reframing some of those initial challenges when you got to town and trying to focus more on the positive aspects of it?
Well, I guess reaching out to the right people, doing a little more research. A lot of it too was just getting over my own ego and my own, fear of, it's tough. There's a lot of competition here. There's a lot of, it was a lot about just being willing to look for the positive and not, it's easy if you're freaked out enough and you're, feeling bad enough, you'll just stay home behind closed doors and it's safe there. And right. A part of me just wanted to do that. So just being willing to try my best and look for the good things and make those connections, was really good.
What was it about Austin that called you there? Because you're initially West Coast, right?
I was born in just outside of Portland, Maine, in Falmouth. When I was 5 years old, my family moved up to the Bellingham, Washington area, so northwest, north of Seattle. And I was there until about 7 years ago. And I kept hearing about Austin. It was one of those things where I felt like the universe was really just trying to push me to do something. Mm-hmm. Enough people said, "You're a singer-songwriter, you need to go to Austin." And I actually started to get annoyed. I was hearing it so much. So I was like, fine, I get it. And I didn't mean to move here. I was just sort of on an extended road trip, sort of running away from a boy at home, sort of just running away from home for the sake of running away. I went to Northern California. I was like, I'll probably just go home after this. And then I was like, no, I'm going to stop down in LA to this music conference I want to go to. And then I'll probably just go home after that. And then it's like, wait, you said you were going to go to Austin. So I really was just going to drive here and then go home just to
Uh-huh.
I had been here. And I got one of my friends, one of two people that I knew when I moved here happened to need a house sitter for the next 6 weeks, the day that I was getting there.
Oh,
And
nice.
so, that kind of got me a little grounded. And then I started to explore a little bit, and then, met a boy and fell in love. And so I was here for like 7 months before I realized that I actually probably live here now. So
It kind of sneaks up on you, doesn't it?
definitely snuck up on me. I hear that from a lot of people that, they showed up and whoops, just never left.
One of the things that I was really excited to talk to you about was Patreon.
Yeah.
Because your video, I was just like smitten kitten. It just really resonated. And I loved that it wasn't some big fancy produced thing. So what was it that even inspired you to use Patreon as a platform?
I'm actually trying to think of how I learned about it. I'm thinking it was probably through friends that were already doing it. And I checked it out that way. I just loved I like the stage, but I'm not, that's not my draw. My burning desire is not to get out and be out on the road all the time and be on a stage all the time. Like, I'm a super homebody, like kind of socially anxious person. And, the thought of being at home and writing and having a way to, to get funding and support, via those means was really a draw for me. And I was already writing a song a week. I joined a online group. It was going to be a year commitment. So for every week we would get a song prompt just via email with a group of other people, and we'd have to turn in a song within the week, or else you got kicked out of the group. They were a little lenient on the rules at first, but I took it really seriously. And partway through that group, another friend of mine invited me to another group. And anyway, I got ensnared in this writing a song a week. So I was already doing that, and I figured might as well be super crazy and, put them out there to the public. Patreon is just, getting to know the company a little bit, and the people that I was working with. They're just really, really amazing people, and it just made me very happy to be in cahoots with them. So
let's go back to your welcome video a little bit more and kind of talk about that. How did you go about shooting and editing that video, and what was the planning stage like of that for you?
Well, that was the second video that I had made. There was not a lot of planning. There was a lot of me thinking, oh, you really should update your video. You really should update your video. And, as it happened with my Kickstarter video, as it happened with this one, it's like, all right, I haven't showered, whatever. Now is the time, like, just do the thing. That's it's kind of how I roll. So yeah, it was just me and my camera trying to be myself.
You nailed it.
Thanks.
Do you think that by sharing that songwriting goal and your mission to support yourself as a creative mission helped create buy-in from potential fans? Like, I mean, because you were honest and just put it out there. You're like, here's my mission. Here's what I want to do. And it felt like, there was an invite that if you want to support this and be a part of that, then that's great.
Yeah. It's a small group of people that I have on there. And it's a tricky thing. I mean, with a Kickstarter, when it's just a one-time deal, I think it's easier to just sort of blast it out there. It's a full-time job for that month or whatnot. You're reaching to everyone all the time. And this one, is just kind of a quieter, more subtle, just sort of a lighthouse. You're there, and you're beeping, and you're kind of being rock solid in what you're doing. And either that attracts people or it doesn't. But the ones that are attracted and the ones that are a part of it are, that's who I'm I focus on them and giving them the best, experience that I can. And I get really, really excited when I get a new patron. It's really wonderful.
So was it hard initially for you to put that out there and ask for money?
Initially it was actually, I think in the beginning it was a little easier when, the launch of the campaign, and over the course of time. In the beginning, I was making a live video of every song that I was writing and putting that out there and promoting every week. And I've actually, it's not even something that I promote that much anymore. I'm still kind of trying to figure out how I can do that without, because I don't want to just be reaching, for my Facebook friends or the same people over and over again, like, here, hey, I'm still at it.
Yeah.
Did you change your mind yet? So yeah, I'm just working on just kind of making it as inspiring for me and just have the best time doing it that I can. And just trying to attract people without directly asking. But I think that's kind of, that's a thing in and of itself, how hard a time we have to, asking for that support. So it's it's an ongoing question and balance, I guess, that I and probably all other artists have. So
yes, I think it's a constant battle. Are you still doing a song a week?
I am. I feel like I have to make the disclaimer that for a couple months in there, I was really starting to lose it and needed just a little breather. And so I was posting, I still had 2 years worth of songs that no one's ever heard.
Oh my gosh.
I still had all those just sitting there. So I did for a couple months. When I didn't write a brand new song, I was posting, I was digging in the depths and posting those, but I really missed it. And I really started to get antsy. So I'm back into the weekly grind.
What does your songwriting process look like? Because the thought of cranking out a song a week just makes my head explode.
Yeah, it's definitely a muscle. And I mean, deadlines make the world go round. I don't know if somebody probably coined that phrase, but it's very, very true. And as far as writing goes for me, if I didn't have the deadlines and people holding me accountable, which I don't have now. I'm holding myself accountable now, but I just don't think it would happen. But is when you have the deadline and you just have to write it. There's no basically what I've done when I have a phrase that I'm working with, I'll just the first musical anything that those words form, I just go with it. I just grab it, just start singing, start trying to put it to music, and just run with it. And I don't question and I don't censor. Like, there's no time for that. Just let this weird thing out. And it's worked pretty well. Like, I love it. I love writing without really thinking about it, because whatever comes out at the other end, you're like, wow, I did that. Yeah. And there's no even real recollection or connection maybe with what it was. And that's kind of a magical feeling that there's, something at work, that the muse is, the muse has got your back, I guess.
So how has it even changed your songwriting process since you've been working that muscle basically every week over the course of the past few years? Has that changed your songwriting process at all?
Well, I'm not sure. If I'm not starting with a prompt of some sort, like kind of how I've written my whole life is to start with a guitar riff and then find a melody and then find some words to go on top of that. But lately, the best is when I'm trying to play a song that already exists and I mess something up just enough that it takes on a new like maybe it's a little something new. And then I run with that. But um, yeah, it's interesting. It's I've always been a really prolific writer, but yeah, this whole weekly start with a prompt is I'm not sure. I'm not sure what normal is anymore, I guess. Um, and
Yeah.
it is really, really nice the rare times that I'm actually struck with inspiration and want to just write a song just because. That's pretty rare these days.
Wow, that's fascinating to me. With this amount of output of songs, do you ever have to fight any perfectionist tendencies to actually put out a song every week? Does that seed of doubt ever kind of creep in where you're like, oh, I don't know if I should really put this out? Or are you just like, nope, this is what I've committed to. It's going out to the world as is.
Oh yeah, I mean there's doubt all the time, but I don't listen or care because I mean if it was something that was going to actually out on the internet for any and all to hear, I might be a little more careful, but the commitment is to write a song and to post it. And so that song absolutely is not ever going to be perfect. And I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Sometimes you can just like have a verse and a chorus. I bet I can repeat these things a couple times and bam, got it done.
There you go. I love it. Well, because I know just for me personally, that's one of the things that I battle. I'm like, you get something, you're like, hey, this is pretty good. I think this is a thing. And then you sit with it for a little bit and you're like, oh my God, this thing sucks. And then you revisit it, or at least I do. And I'm like, okay, so maybe it's not the worst thing that's ever been written. I think I'll share this and see what happens.
Wait, let's take a vote. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And then, it's always the one that you're like, oh, that's probably not that great. And somebody will come up and be like, oh my God, I love that song. It's the weirdest stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that happened to me with a song it was for a group. It was a 2-chord song about a historical figure. And I wrote an absolute throwaway song about Abraham Lincoln that was based on a quote that I found that supposedly he said, that's fine. And I brought it to this group and played it and just never would have touched it again. But a friend of mine liked it and she asked for the chords and the words, and so she started to play it at her shows and people liked it, and then people started requesting it at my shows, so I learned it again. And then fast forward a year or two, and Ruthie Foster just put the song on her latest album that came out in April. It's like, holy cow, you just never know.
Isn't that funny? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. But the number of the songs that I have written in the last 3.5 years, the number of them that I actually play out ever is like, maybe 1 in 20 or so. It's a very, very small number that would, actually make the cut, I guess. But
yeah. So how do you even whittle that down out of such a huge catalog?
Well, either it sticks with me or it doesn't. And then a lot of them I really just forget ever existed. But yeah, there are ones that resonate and I actually want people to hear, and so I practice them up and try them out, and yeah, it just the cream rises to the top, I suppose.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So let's talk about your latest EP and how you got connected with Joss Whedon and what that collaboration was like.
So I did a Kickstarter campaign. It was my first one I ever done in 2014. And again, with the video, I was like, today's the day. I wanted to do a Bob Dylan Subterranean Homesick Blues out in the alley Like I even scouted out alleys and everything, but I was just too shy. So I just stayed in my office, and like my cat's in there, and she's got a, cone of shame on her head. And
Oh my God.
anyway, so it's like made this video and about a week in, I got a backing from Joss Whedon, and I recognized the name. Like, wait, where do I know that name from? So I had to, asked my partner. It's like, oh, that guy, wow.
Yeah.
So, so when the campaign was over, his reward was a personalized song written for him. So I, just emailed as you do and said thank you, and asked how he wanted to go forth with the writing process, and we talked some ideas. And so I was working on a song that I did finish. Nobody really has ever heard it besides him. But while that was going on, he had gotten the song from the Kickstarter video in his head. It had spun off this other set of lyrics, and he was wondering if I would want to put music to those. And of course, I was thrilled.
Yeah.
So he sent those over, and within 24 hours, I had written the music to Big Giant Me and sent it back to him, and he loved it, and I loved it. We're like, wow, that was really easy and cool. We just decided to keep going. Pretty organically grew into let's make an EP, and we did set a number of songs and start working towards that. And it took a while, took a couple years to complete. And we recorded it last January in LA, and then we made a music video in July. And I'm gonna have. This is the first time that I will be on vinyl, so I'm really excited to have a full band release show at the Cactus Cafe on July 8th.
That's exciting.
Yeah, super exciting. So it's definitely a notch off the old whatever the list is to be on a real vinyl record. So.
Oh my gosh, I love that. As you guys were collaborating on this project, were you guys ever in the same space, or were you working primarily remotely through email and whatever other ways we communicate these days?
Yeah. Well, I actually didn't know what he looked like. We had been emailing for a couple weeks. I think I may have actually even written Big Giant Me without still knowing not knowing what he looked like. And we didn't, so everything was via email until we put Big Giant Me up on iTunes, which was in August, so several months later. And I had talked to everyone else on the phone. I talked to his lawyer and his agent, and but not him. But once the song came out, we decided we should maybe talk on the phone. Take it to the next level. Very shy, very awkward. And we wouldn't meet until the next year. And we tried a couple times to write in the same room together. And the first time we lasted about an hour, and we basically ended up like huddled in opposite corners of the hotel room, and then just jumped ship and went down to the bar and started drinking. And then the next time was actually in the studio, and we still had unfinished lyrics to break the skin. And it was Friday afternoon. It was our last day in the studio. I'm like, all right, dude, we have to do this. So we kind of texted back and forth in the same room, because even speaking out loud trying to do it was hard.
Oh my gosh.
So I sang the song singing or reading from my phone, and as soon as we were done with that, it was an end of the studio time. So
that's just amazing how that all can come together, and not, I don't know, technology's kind of rad.
It's pretty crazy. It's done some really good things in the world.
Yeah. So I know on your website too, you also have house concerts listed. So is that kind of your preferred venue?
That is definitely the preferred venue. House concerts are the coolest thing. For everybody, really, the people that attend them are like, whoa, I'm right here with the musician. I get to hang out with them.
Yeah.
It's a very, very intimate space that you get to share. And for the musicians, it's amazing because people listen and they're stoked to have you there, and they pay well, and you get to, connect with people. Yeah, definitely the favorite of most musicians that I know.
Yeah, and no clanging beer bottles in the background, and
Yeah.
I love it.
There's beer. There's definitely still beer, but
yeah,
it's quieter.
Exactly. It's quiet beer drinkers.
Yeah.
What does your dream project look like? What's the big thing you'd love to get out to the world someday?
Ooh, the big thing. There are a couple big things, but I'm pretty enchanted with the idea of having music in film and TV, particularly, that last scene of maybe a dramatic crime show, or I mean, it could be anything. But I was with Criminal Minds for a while. But that last song that comes in and like everyone's heart is kind of broken, but you're relieved at whatever drama has wrapped up. And that for me is kind of I love that so much. And the other thing is when I started playing guitar at 14, I wanted to be Ani DiFranco. I wanted to be me, but I wanted to do what Ani was doing.
Hell yeah.
And so it's definitely always been a dream to be on Righteous Babe Records, or to work with her, or to play with her, or anything like that. So those are kind of the two big things maybe that I'm going for. And I mean, honestly, after being on the Back to Eden video shoot set, it's like, man, this movie thing's pretty awesome. So I'm definitely inspired to, I mean, everyone has a nice camera. Like the phones are way nicer cameras than they were making, feature movies with in the probably 90s even. And I feel like there's no excuse to not just explore that fully.
Exactly.
So we'll see maybe what that ends up looking like. Just trying to, broaden the horizons a little bit. I also want to have my punk band someday. The punk band is gonna happen too. Yeah.
Right on. So what's in your ears right now? Who are you listening to?
Well, I listen to a lot of Josh Ritter. I listen to a lot of Frightened Rabbit. He's a guy from Scotland. It's one of those things, like, I'm not sure why I'm so obsessed with him. I mean, he's amazing. He's really talented, but it's not like necessarily a genre of music that I really love. I'm obsessed with what he does. And a lot of my friends, I have really amazingly talented friends that I listen to a lot as well. But yeah, I feel a little bit guilty confessing this, but I actually don't listen to a ton of music, which is so crazy. I go to a lot of music, but it's a weird thing. Like, I think my brain is constantly always trying to write, or to leave space for that, or to make room for it.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Hell, I feel bad because as a musician, but as somebody that also podcasts and produces podcasts, I'm listening to podcasts all the time. I'm like, man, I should really stop this and listen to some new music.
Yeah, there's a lot of shoulds. That's okay. We're doing that.
Exactly. That's right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This has just been a fantastic conversation and a great, you offered a ton of insight just into all these things that I'm super curious about. And I'm sure that my listeners are also super curious about.
Cool. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate it.
And where can people go to connect with you and check out your Patreon and just absolutely fall in love with your music?
Oh, yeah, I like that part. Oh, the Patreon is just, it's patreon.com/Shawnee Kilgore. You can find me there, ShawneeKilgore.com, or Facebook, Shawnee Kilgore Music, or Instagram. I'm also a photographer and I love taking photos. So it's Instagram.com/Shawnee Kilgore as well.
Fantastic. And I will have links to all of that in the show notes. Shawnee, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Jen. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening. I would love to hear what your big takeaways were from this conversation and how you plan to put them to use in your world. Tweet me at BrassyBroadJen with one N and Shawnee at Shawnee, ShawneeKilgore. Now get out in the world and do some good.